we wouldn't be here if it weren't for Anne. Thank you very much.
Yes, you're welcome.
Oh, there. Didn't recognize you. Now you're part of our expedition. And we've been on two of them each year, the last 2 years. And so this is a real culmination. We really appreciate you being here tonight. It's really fun to see. And there's a sense of like, what's different here? It's this community. It's like big gorilla or some kind, very friendly.
When I was standing up front, I was looking out at all of you and wondering about your lives and your interests that has shared our interests and brought you to be here this evening. And Anne had mentioned that this is an extraordinary group coming this evening, and she mentioned some people's backgrounds in general, and so I'm as interested in you as you may be in us. And so keep in touch. We really want to know more about what you're doing as well. And so maybe after it's over and as the year goes on, we can learn more about what you are doing as well. We met on an expedition in 1995.
We met at the
LA
airport. Unfortunately, we were going on the same expedition.
We were going to Northeast China and Inner Mongolia just at the end of the cultural, what do you call it, revolution, as it was winding down. And we were there on a mission to assess what was left of the shamanic traditions in China post-revolution. And it was a very difficult trip, and partly because the shamans are still being repressed, and they were really scared to come forward because they had been re-educated and tormented, and they had had a lot of negative consequences for remembering and practicing their traditions.
So as soon as we thought we were just in as tourists, we found that we had a whole cadre of police following us, plain clothes, until they finally decided we were very uninteresting. And well, they were obviously too dumb to know what was going on.
That's not the total truth. They inundated our group by posing as the cousins of our driver and went around with us everywhere. And at one point they decided what we were doing was a political statement, and we were putting emphasis on shamanism. We had gone to a very remote part of China that had never had a Western visitor ever. And the people were living in mud and dabble homes, and there were no roads. It was very difficult to get there. And if we went from one house to the river, everyone in the whole village would follow us. And we were sleeping on a brick bed, all six in a bed, on a brick bed. And when I woke up, not that I slept, I opened my eyes and there were 30 people peering at me through the window, and I felt like a bear in a zoo or something. But anyway, they decided that we were not allowed to continue our expedition, and they would not allow us to go on into Inner Mongolia because of this emphasis we were placed on shamanism. But we did film a shaman practicing and doing a ceremony, and the way we protected him was to suggest that he wasn't doing anything real. This was a cultural artifact, and that this was just an act. And that kind of backfired later. Well, anyway, we went on into Inner Mongolia. We had a kind of meeting. We were thinking we were being bugged in the room. We went on into Inner Mongolia. We just ignored.
Well, the roads were blocked. They actually had bulldozers had dozed a whole lot of soil up onto the road so that our little bus couldn't get by at all. We had to drive off and down through and then back up onto the road. I think there were 4 or 5 of those until we finally met one with a gate that came down like this.
And we kept on offering tribute to let us keep on passing. And once we got into Inner Mongolia, we met with the officials there. We worked out another arrangement. And the arrangement was that we would not meet in public with the shamans in their setting, that they would be brought under the cloak of darkness to an unknown place, and we couldn't go out to lunch, we couldn't be seen with them. But we met in a dance studio, this is not the film you're going to be seeing. I'm just giving you a little history. That
You'll have
film,
to come
by the
back
way,
to that.
is available through YouTube. It's called Drums of the Ancestors. You'll see, if you're curious, you'll see 15 minutes out of 27. That's pretty good. It's also distributed by the Foundation for Shamanic Studies. But the point is, I wanted to catch you up to why we went back into this last time in 2011. It's because what happened was I was brought back into China in 2007. The political atmosphere had changed. All of a sudden they realized they needed their shamans. They wanted their traditions back. And the Communist Party officials deemed me as the authority.
We were the only people, and they really, Susan, that had film of any of this.
We had the only contemporary footage of practicing shamans
that
in
had been
China.
taken a few years before when we were there in '95.
So they wanted us, they wanted all the footage back, and they brought me back to consult with the officials based on my successful practice in Montpelier, Vermont, to advise them how I would suggest they gather it back and start to practice it again. And so I was on primetime television news in full regalia playing a drum in China. And when I said something that backfired, this was the moment. What happened was, just before it started to escalate, and it got very exciting, and when the television cameras got involved, everybody in China, all the people who'd sponsored us, got really scared. Because there's a hierarchy in China, and there's always somebody above. And they had put themselves out to a point, and then all of a sudden they were scared there was going to be some kind of bad thing that was going to happen to them because they were putting us forward. So they sat me down at a table and loomed over me, and they were very stern. And they said, "We want to make one thing perfectly clear." And I was like, "What?" They said, "We don't want you to do anything real. We want it to be just an act." And it gave me like goosebumps because they were persecuting me. And I got to feel that sense of what it was like. And they were, "Do you understand?" And I was like, "Yes, I understand." But I was thinking inside, but I don't agree. And so I took my drum out of the museum. I donated it, among other things, to this museum.
Well, she's got a full native dress, feathered on it and everything, and permanently in the museum there now.
Well, I took my drum out that night, and I went to sleep with it, and thought, what am I to do under these circumstances? I didn't want to wind up in prison or something, but I did realize that I'm an outsider, and they're not going to really punish me. And I went ahead. The next morning, they donned me in my regalia again, and the television cameras were there, and I went right for it, to clear away the obstacles and to reseed shamanism back into China. And so what you're getting ready to see is some of the result of their reemergence, because the shaman saw, I didn't get in trouble, and when it was all over, the vice president of the university was in the car with me, and he said, "What did you do when you played your drum?" And I explained to him, really honestly, I said, I cleared the way. I cleared away the obstacles, and I scattered the seeds to all the corners of China, so these traditions could live again. And I just was outspoken about it. No one got in trouble. And then the shamans started to feel safe, and they started to practice again. And now they're being relegated to national treasures. This was Thank you.
17 years, yeah.
From 95 to the time that this woman we filmed, we had heard about her, that people were writing PhDs on shamanism, and there was a master's program in shamanism. They were using it for troubled youth, working with the drum. They were having ceremonies. Everything was starting to go again. There are 33 ethnicities in China. This one, the first one you're going to see, is from the Daur tradition, D-A-U-R. And we'd heard that this Daur shaman was now elevated to the highest status, and her name is Su Xingua. And she keeps records. There are 33 notebooks of her healing clinics, and we wanted to go back and film her in ceremony and also learn how she does her healing.
She works in deep trance, but yet when she's making the assessment and all, she really does keep these very accurate records. We don't know of anyone else over there at all that keeps the records like she has. I mean, they go back, how many years? It's many years.
Yeah, she's been at least 7. So the twist was, when we got there, the ceremony that was being anticipated had been rescheduled. And there was no ceremony
For us to film.
for us to film. So we were kind of not sure what to do. So they wanted to do a ceremony for me to elevate my status. And so that wasn't anticipated. We didn't go over with that intention, but that was what turned out.
So you can see a film.
That includes a ceremony of that nature.
And a room about a quarter of this size had all these people in it, and this whole thing going on, and me trying to photograph it with a video camera. So you'll notice some shaking. You might wonder why can't a person stand. Hard to move around when you've got 20 people in a little teeny room.
One thing about our work is we don't go in with a crew. We do everything ourselves. We don't have anyone doing the interview or the lighting or the sound or the videography except us. We're doing everything. But that gives us a great advantage because later on when we show the next series of videos tonight, we went into Mongolia, into the hardest, most remote section by horseback, and we got information that is very unique and very rare about their healing techniques. But I don't think they would have given this information had we been a crew of 20 people with all this big equipment and all these lights and so on. We did the best we could under the circumstances.
Did you have an interpreter?
We did have an interpreter, yes. Part-time, not always.
In China, which is the inner Mongolia, we had an interpreter, and of course then when we were in Mongolia, we had a Mongolian interpreter.
And we had a guide when we were on horseback. But we'll talk about that, so I don't want to mix you up. We're going to show the first one, then right after that we're going to go, this is a 30-minute video, right after that we're going to show you an 8-minute video of this woman's apprentice named Woju Fen, who became a full-fledged shaman, and she's doing the second one. This woman is conducting an initiation for a 16-year-old male, and it's a rite of passage. He's becoming an adult. And then we're going to take a little bathroom break for people who need it, and then we'll go, the rest of the program will be on Mongolia. So we're going to do it in 2 parts.
And it used to be called Outer Mongolia. That doesn't help some of us that are older like me. It used to be Outer Mongolia, but it's an independent state now, and the Inner Mongolia is part of China. Chinese have an iron fist wrapped around them.
Okay, so without further ado, we welcome you. We really appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
We're gonna,
And doctor, thank you so much.
yeah.
Carrying all those chairs, and hope your back is okay.